I'm just leaving the free state of Florida on a flight to New York to kiss the 78% of young Black Americans who have resisted the endless pushing of the state injectable. So that's exactly where I'm headed now, seeing the difference between the free state of Florida that I'm in with DeSantis as the governor, and then going to the hellhole of New York, where unless you've got a double vaccination certificate, you're not allowed to eat in the restaurants, you're not allowed to go into venues or bars or clubs. I'm just in to New York City. It's a city I used to live in actually for about 4 or 5 years, working on Madison Avenue. And I was here last when it was being shut down. So the day that everything had to close, I was here. I was doing pole dancing on the subway, as some of you may remember. All that hustle and bustle of the streets are back. The yellow cabs are back. People are going places. You can't really move on the sidewalks. It's all great. But the weird thing is that in the business windows, in the restaurants and the bars, it says, unless you're vaccinated, you're not coming in. In the cinema, you're not coming in if you're not fully vaccinated. In the hotels as well. And of course, you have the sort of whites on their moral high ground in the restaurants eating, looking down at the plebs outside who have failed to get their state injectable. New York City requires anybody entering this business to be vaccinated. That's what that blue sign there is. And so what they've had to do is construct these outside areas in order that the unvaccinated, the unclean, can sit on the sidewalk and eat. But what's so strange is that you have white people inside the restaurant, the vaccinated elite, and then the people who aren't vaccinated, the other people, sat outside eating. And there is something very odd about being prevented from going inside to eat because you're not of the same moral class, that's the inference, as the people inside. And that's a really weird thing for me here in New York. I've never seen anything like it here in this city. So this is what the restaurants are having to build, plyboard huts outside their restaurant. You see this one's got little Chinese candles in it. The lovely builders are just working on one right now as we speak there outside the Irish bar. That's the madness of New York under the leftists. I have brought you reports from some pretty crazy places. I think this might be my first one in a bathroom. But outside here is a restaurant full of people. So the people who are forced to eat outside because they're unvaccinated, therefore unclean, in the new medical apartheid in New York City, can come in to use the bathroom past the vaccinated people, but they have to wear a mask and presumably look apologetic and recognise what the people inside have, the warmth, the atmosphere, and then return outside, which is all very well right now because it's still autumn and relatively warm. But when it gets bloody cold, this will be a lot less funny. And people will say, well, how does it work if the unvaccinated are walking past the vaccinated to use the same bathroom? Well, of course it doesn't. You cannot rationalise with the irrational. Last time I came to this place, it was completely deserted, not a soul in the whole of New York City. And if there's one thing I'm glad about, vaccine mandates and all the rest of it aside, is that you cannot keep New York City down. This place is, I'm trying to show you all of it, but it's sprung back to life. The streets are full of people. There's performers in the street. Everybody's out, laughing, talking, eating, dancing. I don't know, there's something terribly uplifting about the fact that people refuse to be kept down no matter what someone does to them. I'd much rather be out here amongst the chaos than amongst the sanitized spaces of vaccine acceptable New York. And there's also something very strange about being inside those places as an unvaccinated person, in that the people inside them seem to be perfectly happy with that. The people who've rejected a medical procedure are forced to be outside. It just sort of upsets me at all sorts of levels, and it's only by returning to the melee of the outdoors where people are happy to fall over, fall asleep, eat, drink and be merry on the sidewalks that I feel at home. From a very noisy, busy and excitable New York, my overriding feeling is one of joy to be surrounded by so many people. But behind the noise and the chaos and the fun here, there's also a darker truth, which is that apartheid is back in New York City, and all of the vaccinated don't seem to care.